primitive level and then go through the long cycle of living at one with the planet because they have no choice. But I would argue that if you were to take, say, an American Indian or an Aborigine or anybody else out of their time and place and bring them into our time and place, it wouldn't take them 5 or 10 years to get, to realize, man, I got to get myself an education, I got to get myself a job, I got to get myself a car, a house, and they would then start being part of the problem, and we all are that way because we don't have any choice. Your only choice is to just go live in isolation, go live primitively, and it's just too difficult unless you absolutely have to do it and don't know any other way.
I mean, right now... Yeah, so sorry to interrupt. I just want to squeeze in there that right now I think we are at this kind of... this tipping point, and I mean I totally agree with you. The people who are pushing kind of the green agenda, those are the people who are financing Monsanto, and they are behind Royal Dutch Shell, what have you. They're poisoning the planet. So it's a double standard, is morals up the wazoo, what have you. I mean, but I think that what we are kind of experiencing right now is that we're on this it's this cross point right here where we can actually go towards a technology in order to have energy, what have you, in a much more better way if we encourage the research that is being done in regards to free energy technology. We have so much at our disposal right now if we just can take care of it. And what I'm hoping for right now is that we should be able to turn around at this point and actually go for go down the right path here, so to speak. I think the opportunities here, whether we're going to do that or not, we just have to see how that pans out.
I don't think anybody listening to this show, including me, would say anything other than yay, and cheer on that attitude of yes, we ought to.
Yeah.
I'm just talking about practicalities, and practically speaking, the alternative energy is really not going to be allowed to blossom by the large power, structure, the oil industry and all that, simply because they haven't wrung out every dollar that's possible from what they have. It's greed. Greed is just dominant within our species, and there are always going to be people who are doing that and are going to be working in their best interest, which is not what you said, and there are just too many of them, and they're in too many powerful positions, and there are too few of us, and our power is weak relative to them, and so basically we can fight all we want, but I don't think in the long haul that we have any chance of winning. All that's going to really change things is something very dramatic, like a natural wipeout of some kind. An asteroid comes, or another massive volcano or supervolcano or something like that. I don't see it. I mean, I'm not even sure that it would be a nuclear exchange. I don't really see that. Now, I do see the possibility of, say, a germ warfare type accident like the Andromeda strain. That's always possible, because those things are out there and those things can happen. But that's really about it as far as what I can imagine.
I mean, there are people out there who suggest that many people who are at the top, and I would actually at this point say that I think that they are very few actually, and the illusion in all of this is that they get us the perception that they are all powerful and that we can do nothing, and I think that is an illusion. But anyway, what I'm getting at is that we should be able to kind of get the idea here that if they have thought about this, if they are looking at the developments on the planet right now, these few people, they potentially might see this and think that, and other people have suggested this, that they might actually release a genetically engineered, a plague or a bacteria or a virus or what have you, in order to actually kill off a lot of people. And there are, hints out there that seems to be pointing at this. And I don't think that is that is the most despicable way to go about this, and especially if we consider that they at the top are so few and they want to continue their lifestyle, their greedy lifestyle, and the majority still on this planet are living in poverty, So I think it's just a few bad apples, if you will, and we need to realize that this is it's up to us to shatter that illusion, if you will. That's how I see it right now, at least.
Well, it would be wonderful if that could happen, Hendrik, and I would, like I said, nobody would applaud you more than me, or the group of people that you're talking about that would get wonderful thing, but I'm obviously a lot more pessimistic about it than you are. Of course, I've probably been at it a lot longer than you have, and I think pessimism does come with age.
Right.
So, because I used to be a lot more idealistic than I am now, and I've just seen it. I've just been disappointed, and I've seen too many potential things come along that could do it and don't, and are not allowed to do it. And just in my own 10 years with the Star Child, I've just seen so much just rotten obfuscation of people just protecting their own turf, not willing to do their job, which is, as scientists, is to promote the truth and reach toward the truth, and they don't do that. They don't want the truth. They want things to stay the way they are now, because that's what they understand and that's what they're comfortable with, and nobody wants really big change. And so for me, I can't help but come at it from a pessimistic point of view.
Right. Well, that's okay. The different viewpoints is always accepted on this program. That's okay. I mean, right. I think that this is like, if we think about it, also we talked about the idea that we are engineered. We are put together by two different species, as it were, and what I'm thinking about here is I wonder if the reason for the drive for technology and even some of these properties that we've been talking about, the greed and etc., what have you, that is actually something that comes from this, from the Anunnaki strain.
It clearly does, Hendrik. There's no question about it. When you read the stories about them that Sitchin writes about in the 12th Planet and his other books, the Anunnaki are some of the most venal, just malicious, mean, contrary, backstabbing, scheming people that you can imagine. It's the old gods of Greece, Zeus and all the machinations that he does with his family, and those early, the Roman gods and all of them, all of the early cultures had those multiple gods who were always, making trouble for each other, basically, and were being jealous and being petty and being vindictive and all of those things. That's us, and would they pass those bad qualities right into us? We shall make the Adamu in our own image, after our own likeness, in our own image, and they gave us their insides as well. We have their genetic code, and it's clear that we don't have a primate, even though we share about 95% of our gene code with chimps, and that's because we share probably 97 of our gene code or 98 with the creature of Earth that was used to create us. And I would again say that that's almost, and probably those are Neanderthals. But the other part, the other 1 or 2 or 3% or however much it's going to turn out to be when all of our full genomes are decoded and they can put them down and compare them, gene by gene, base pair by base pair by base pair, and see what the differences are. We are very, very much like them, and we got all of their emotional problems as well.
Yeah.
And what you read about in Sitchin's book, we express all the time on a regular basis.
That is very interesting. I think we need to find the balance within ourselves between these two sides, become aware of our behavior and formerly our thoughts, and find that balance. That's how I see a solution to that.
Nobody lives more in tune with the environment, I believe, than hominoids. And our chimps or gorillas or, like you were saying, any animal you want to name except us that is integrated into the existence of this planet, that belongs here, that is a part of the system.
Yeah.
And I think the hominoids clearly are. They're totally and completely in tune with nature, with the environment.
Yeah.
And they don't leave a mark as they pass through, any one of them. They do it right. But, we have only such a small part of that in us. I don't see us able to reach to find it. We are them. We are the Anunnaki, and we express that in every way, physically, in our bodies, in our gene code, having the 46 chromosomes rather than the 48. Even though, by the way, this is a very interesting side issue that needs to be to be discussed. All higher primates have 48 chromosomes, 24 from mom, 24 from dad. Humans have 46, 23 from mom, 23 from dad. And so you have to ask yourself, where did that extra chromosome go? Because that is a huge, huge amount of DNA to be gone out of a species and yet still have them share 95, 96, 97% of the genome with a primate. Right away, you know there's something wrong with the math there, because those chromosomes simply can't be missing because the genomic material is still on hand. So what happened? How can all the higher primates have 48 chromosomes and how can humans have 46? What happened? And the answer is we didn't really lose those two chromosomes. They're not really missing out of our bodies, out of our genes. We still have the genomic material of the higher primates of 48 chromosomes. But what happened was in our creation, the Anunnaki needed us to have 46 chromosomes because obviously they have 46 chromosomes. And if they were going to be able to have sex with us and were going to be able to make us be able to reproduce with them, which we did, you know, the offspring of them and humans were called demigods, they needed us to have 46 chromosomes, and so it would line up with them to make offspring. So how did they do this? They took our second and our third chromosome. If you look at a primate and you look at its second and its third chromosome, you find an exact analog of that in our second chromosome, which is their second and third fused together, end to end. The Anunnaki, when they created us, they just took our second and our third chromosomes and they stuck them together so that all the material is still there, but it now takes up one place, so that when the mating process came underway with them, it would work, and of course it did work, and it also works with us.
That is fascinating. And, you know, I want to touch upon another thing that we discussed briefly last time we had you on the show, and this was about basically about intelligence and savants. You know, we talk about that we have limits in our intelligence. We hear this all the time, that we only use a certain percentage of our brain and so forth, and that this actually might have come across because of this genetic engineering. They wanted to make us bright, but obviously not too bright. The question is, can this be reversed? I can't help to think that we, you know, the current interest that the human race has in decoding, unlocking, and unveiling the human DNA, this has to do with the fact that we are, you know, or at least those who fund and do this research are interested in unlocking the potential of the human DNA and of the human brain. Whether this is, you know, right or wrong, we can leave to the side for the moment. But I want to ask if you think that this is a possibility, that they are trying to unleash this, you know, God power almost, if you will. And if this was to be the case, we would almost see kind of a split of the human species again, where a few would be, you know, super intelligent basically, and a few would be, you know, remain where we are, or even more dumbed down because of all the, you know, toxicity in our environment, if you will, you know.
Exactly. All that you just said is accurate. I think it's clear that they would not create a slave that would be themselves 100%, because they don't. You want a slave that's smart enough to follow instructions, to be told, you know, go off and do this job, and when you're done, come back and tell me, and have them be smart enough to accept that instruction and go and do it. But you don't want them to be smart enough to get together behind your back and challenge you and overthrow you in any way. So you want them to be deliberately dumbed down to a certain degree. And I think that happened. I think it's clear that the Anunnaki had just what's called eidetic or eidetic memory, which is where you remember everything. You just remember everything. And there are people who do that. There's a woman who's well known now. I forget her name, but she's well known. She remembers everything. She just absolutely doesn't forget a